It's good to see you again. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
I'm very proud to be your chemistry teacher, Mr. Musleh, and I'm really proud to see your achievement which you have gathered in the last, I think, 10 to 12 years of time, right? It is
Yeah,
real.
that's right. But I mean, it's always happy to see how much I've done. But then I think it's for me, it's really the foundation that I got. Very solid foundation. Obviously, in science, if you saw, I kind of spent a lot of my career in the science space, and that's just the support that I had from you guys.
Great, great. Musleh, being a student from Indian school, and you have been, through this big syllabus of chemistry, physics, and biology, which
Yes.
we all know that it is uh, very, very, like in higher proportion in comparison to Indian syllabus of the other countries, like US syllabus and the syllabus from Cambridge University and all. I can say that it is at least two times, right? So, but you have gone through all this big syllabus. So, was this any achieved, advantage for you, like covering such a big syllabus?
Yeah, definitely was. And I mean, you obviously, used to tell us as well in school that this is very challenging, it's hard. But the truth is it gives you a leg up, really. I went to I did my undergraduate, like the first bachelor's degree in Malaysia. And it was just surprising starting that first year. A lot of the stuff that we were covering the first year of university was what we covered already in 12th grade, 11th grade. So what it allows you to do is you begin very easy for you as someone coming from a CBSE or an Indian system to kind of just very easily move through it very much so. The syllabus, especially in chemistry, was very, very advanced. I think some of the stuff we were doing in 12th we did in 12th standard was covered, I think, in second year in organic chemistry. I remember looking at the textbook and remembering, the CBSE textbooks we used to have, and I was like, CBSE was much, much more tougher than this at the 12th standard.
Musleh, your experience in Indian school, you were in Jabriya Indian School, Kuwait. Anything which you remember in class 11th and 12th, like when you thought, okay, oh, Baba, this syllabus is so tough, and how will I, do and all? Like, were there any time you were thinking that it's too tough to handle?
Oh yeah, all the time, all the time. I think it's a difficult syllabus. I have to be honest. Even at this stage, I have a PhD in biology at the moment, but I still look back and I spent 3 years doing my PhD, but I still feel the 11th and 12th standard was way harder. And
Great.
people are always surprised when I say that, but it was way harder because all of the foundational stuff that you needed to understand in chemistry, in physics, in biology, you're learning there.
Musleh, I would like to know that after your 12th standard, like what made you decide, like what was the decision process basically for you to, focus on your BSc honors and then microbiology as a subject, like the full thought process, if you can explain me.
Yeah, it's always challenging once you finish 12th standard and trying to decide one, what you want to study, and two, where you want to study it also, and depending on your grades as well. For me, it was between, definitely biology was something I was really, really interested in. It was just a subject I was always fascinated about how things work. And how life is supposed to come out, and grow, and just I was just very interested in life generally. So that was a definite focus on biology. Deciding on microbiology, that happened later once I started studying. Once I started in my BSc, but the decision itself happened was I don't know, I think the last few weeks of school. You look at your grades, you see where you had the best grades. That was the decision I made, and I was like, oh, that I did really well in biology, and I thought maybe that's something that I could be interested in, and I tried that out, and in the end, it was something I was really interested in. Another aspect where, because I did bioinfo, so I did biology and informatics at standard 12 CBSE. So informatics was another space I was really interested in. Programming and IT was another option. But in the end, I decided to go with biology, with the belief that if I didn't like it, I could always try something different. And my parents were very supportive as well. They were like, okay, if you don't like biology, you can always try something different. So I had that opportunity to try something different. The more challenging decision was really where to go. The university system where I'm from in Nigeria is not very good. So there was actually a few countries we were looking at to do a bachelor's. At that time, Canada was a place many of my fellow students went to. I didn't want to go there because it was just, I don't like the cold. And Sharat sir will tell you, and you know how warm it is in Kuwait. So I decided that, I would go somewhere else where I did not know. But I think one evening around after we were waiting for our results to come out, I think I saw an advertisement for Visit Malaysia 2007. And it just seemed like, wow, it looks like a really fantastic place, right? I mean, they had this, tourism advertisement. And I went online, and I think those were the early days of Google, and I Googled Malaysia University, and there were a couple of different universities there, and I just started applying. I didn't even tell my parents. And I got admission to one or two. And then I told my parents, I was like, I want to go to Malaysia. And in their mind, no one really went to Malaysia. People went to the UK, they went to Australia, they went to Canada. So it wasn't something they were open about. But after a few discussions, they were like, okay, look, if you want to do this, you want to go. Malaysia was definitely a cheaper option as well. So they were like, okay, try it out, see how it goes for a year. And then if you don't like it, you can come back and go somewhere else. So I took that opportunity. I went, but I loved it. It was fantastic. It was because I, coming from an Indian school system, very multicultural background, right? Malaysia is a very similar country where in Malaysia you have Indians, you have Malays, you have Chinese people, different religions. So it really felt like school. It felt like being in Kuwait again. So I really enjoyed that choice that I made with Malaysia.
Was it expensive in Malaysia, to get admission, tuition fee, and boarding lodging?
No, it was very cheap. It was a lot cheaper, and I think it's a much better option compared to going to the US and Canada for bachelors. I think, as students who are not very wealthy, I think we should always think about what is the value, how much money you're putting into the education and how much you're getting out of it. Education is really important, but I think almost most places have very decent undergraduate systems. India has a really solid system. My sister actually she studied in India. She did her bachelor's in India. Malaysia has a really solid system at a good price. And I think what I did, and I really recommend to a lot of students, is go to places where it's cheap to do your undergrad, because that's the most important one. Get a good school education, and I'm sure Shahid you're definitely helping your student a lot there. And then, go somewhere cheap for undergrad. And then after that, masters and PhD always have scholarships, and they have a lot of scholarships. And at that stage, there's very few students who are interested as well. My master's, I did it almost completely free in Germany. My PhD was also completely free here in Australia, right? So the only payment my parents actually paid for in terms of undergrad was undergrad. It was just a bachelor's, and that was cheap in Malaysia. So I'd really recommend students to do things like that.
In Germany, we heard that the system is government funded. They don't charge any tuition fee or anything.
That's right.
Only some additional expenses which any student may require. I think that also they can earn, or even I heard it's very, very cheap there. It's it's very
yes. It is so cheap. I have to be honest with you. When I first was doing research about where to go for my master's, and I looked into Germany, I didn't believe it. I was like, this doesn't make sense. But then I applied. I got admission. I went there. It was so cheap. It's a few €100 a semester, and that's not much money at all compared to, even in India, masters are more expensive than that, right? And all you need is just living expenses. And the German government is really, really supportive. I think in my last semester, because you can work at the same time, and when you're doing a master's, it's not very heavy, so you have some time to do a bit of work here and there, and you make more than enough to pay your tuition and your living costs. But in my last semester, where you had to write a master's thesis, they had a scholarship where I think it was for €1,000 a month for 6 months, and I think in those 6 months, the university overall paid me more, maybe 5 times more than I paid in tuition.
Okay. Okay.
Because I think there the focus, especially in Germany, is they really want people to come and be educated, and also they want to have that cultural exchange. And especially with India, I have, oh my God, so many Indian students over there, so many brilliant guys, and it's such a great place to move your career forward. And a lot of them obviously did bachelors in India, and then they have this masters in Germany, and then some of them do PhDs after that, or they just work in some of these big German companies. So I think I would really recommend going to Germany. France is very similar as well. The good thing about going to those places is that you don't have to speak the language. You can move there just with English. All the coursework that I did was everything is English. All my uh, colleagues, everybody spoke English, even though they were German. But the university also provides you with free German classes. So by the time you graduate after 2 years, you also can speak German.
Courses, Mr. Musleh, I think the German language is compulsory in some of the courses.
Yes, in some of the courses, I think some of them, especially in the art space, and the language, obviously literature and stuff like that, there are a few science and engineering. The vast majority you would find English courses.
So you mean to say that even after 12th standard, if any student is wish to go Germany, so even without getting diploma in German language and having good knowledge of English, the student can apply and get admission in Germany for
That's right.
undergrad?
Yes, that's right. There are programs for undergrad as well. There's a lot more for masters, but there's definitely a lot there is for undergrad as well. In Germany, the undergrad it's only 3 years, so it's a bit shorter. And then usually what happens is they always sort of expect you to do the masters as well, because in Germany before they divided into bachelors and masters, they had only one diploma, which is 5 years. But now they have two programs where you do a bachelor's 3 years and then you do a master's 2 years. But yes, students can come in, let's say from India, go in straight to Germany, do it all in English, and do like a 3-year program.
After finishing their masters from Germany, most of the student, I will talk about Indian student, like would they like settle there in Germany, or they wish to go US, Canada, or Australia, or maybe sometime they want to come back in percentage proportion, like what happens to the most of the student?
Yeah, that's a good question. The vast majority, I would say, 60% of the students stay in Germany or in Europe. Why I say Germany or Europe is once you're in Germany, you can move around the rest of Europe very easily. It's almost like one country. And so usually what happens by the time you're finishing uni, companies are approaching you, you're looking into where you want to go. And then either if you're interested after masters to go straight into working for a company, you can go straight. So a lot of Indian students do that. A large majority of that 60%, I think 30% go straight into working for different companies. The another 30% go into PhDs. So they do a PhD in whatever field that they finish their masters in. And then from then on, they tend to go into academic sort of positions where they do postdocs and to be researchers and then professorship and stuff like that along that line. The remaining 40%, I would say 10% of those go back to India and mostly also go back to India. Some of them have parents who are older that they want to support, or siblings that are older they want to support. And obviously with the German degree also, it makes it easier to get jobs in India from what I've heard from my colleagues and friends. And then the remaining 20%, 30%, they mostly all go to Canada or the US or come here in Australia. And there also, it's mostly for PhDs. A small percentage of that move for work, but it's mostly for PhDs.
Okay. Musleh, I was just wondering that if I asked you to suggest student who is in 11th or 12th standard, when exactly he shall, like decide or he should start thinking or at least start applying for his bachelor's, like ideally, because most of us, like most of the student in Jabria Indian School, they used to decide just before the 12th standard exam, and even some even after 12th also. but very few used to decide in even in 11th standard also, because some university they have a 1 year long or maybe one more than 1 year long admission process. So like
Yeah.
the questions are two: when should they decide, and what exactly should be the criteria for them?
Okay. I think, and many people disagree with me. But I think you don't have to decide too early. I think take your time. It's a big decision. Take your time. Finish if you have to even finish 12th standard, do the exam, get the results, and then make the decision. Because I have, yeah, Shard, sir, I know a lot of our colleagues who left earlier on and they did well, but a lot of them, I think they had to make too fast a decision, and it is a big decision. And I think get your results from the exams, see how well you do. You might think you're good in a certain subject and somewhere else is really where you're performing really well. That's something you want to think about. What are you really interested in? That's the first thing. Where are the opportunities in the long run, right? So talk to your teachers, ask them, like Sharad sir, he knows, people like me, other people who he's taught in the past and who are in good careers. Where are the opportunities? Places like IT, places like biology, maybe in a business or certain aspects of physics, for example, where there's a scope in the long run, right? Mix that with your own interests and then make a decision. And look, sometimes it won't be the best decision. Just feel confident that you can always come back. We're still young at that age, and me and Sharat sir are also still young. But at 17, 18, you have time. You have time. If you make a mistake, you can come back, do something else, and whatever. Even the mistake will not be a lost opportunity. It's something that you can use in the future and build on. Right.
Correct.
So take your time, think about it, and just try and enjoy the process. I know it sounds strange to say that, but it's a process that's supposed to be enjoyed. Discover and explore different fields, different people doing different jobs. If you know your father's friend who's like maybe a scientist working in some lab, tell your dad, let me talk to him. Let us talk. Let me ask him what he likes about his job. So ask these questions, see what other people are doing, and if that seems like something you're interested in.
Okay. Mr. Muslih, like student who are thinking, because it was easy for student to move to other countries from Kuwait, right? Because they were exposed and embassies were nearby, and like to getting counsel and visa and all was very easy. Like if a student who is in hinterland in India, like in interiors, right? And first of all, he won't think about going abroad. Second, he'll think, okay, if I will go, then a lot of money is required, right? Thirdly, he will think that, okay, all the offices are in Delhi, like I have to go and come back and all. Like, like, will it be, instead of struggling and getting good, not, like admission not in good colleges here, instead of that, like better to try go abroad where good colleges, low tuition fee, and even better opportunities after studies are there. And the bottom line, the money involvement, if you're not planning to go to USA or some like a very expensive colleges, even with a meager amount of money, the less amount of money, the things can be managed. What's your thought on this?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Especially places like Europe, Germany, France, those countries where tuition is very low, and you're not going to some really big universities, but they're very good universities that everyone in the world is going to respect, right? So I think there are challenges for you being in the hinterlands of in India, but we're in 2021. We're in 2021 and not 10, 20, 30, 50, 40 years ago. Now there's the internet. There's lots of advice online. You will never be the first student from your state to go to Germany, to any university in Germany. I'm 100% sure there's so many Indian students that have gone before you. So I'm sure you'll find a lot of advice online. Another thing is a lot of the embassies as well, they understand, not all students have, they're not living close to Delhi or Mumbai. They allow a lot of applications to be done online. Especially the German system, I was very impressed that the whole application is done online. You hardly send any letter. You don't have to visit anywhere. Once you get done with the application, there's only one visit that you have to do. You go to the German embassy in I imagine it will be in Delhi. So it's become a lot easier than it was in the past. A lot of stuff is done using the internet. If you have generally a good internet connection, you will be able to do a lot. In terms of costs, again, picking countries like Germany, like France, especially the European countries, there's a lot of opportunities there, and the tuition is not very expensive. And I would really recommend students going there even more than coming here to Australia, because I mean, here in Australia, obviously, as you know, there's a lot of Indian students, but the cost here is very high compared to Germany, where it's very cheap, and the quality, to be honest, it's almost the same, if not the same.
Correct. Thank you very much, Mr. Muslih, and I think your kind word, your word of advice will make some change in students' opinion in traveling to abroad, right? And my heart is for you. I wish you all the very best for your future endeavors also, right? God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, and I hope your students take that jump and grab those opportunities, because they're there. And I think once they take that first step, second step, they'll be very surprised that there's a lot of support around the world, and there's so many people who really want you to succeed, who don't know you yet, that are invested in making sure that you get a good education. And they've set up systems and education programs that are very low cost to make sure that you are the best that you can be.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you.